And I'll start first of all by introducing the panel that we have this morning. I'll start with my immediate right. We have Ambrose Weda, who is a lawyer. We're also joined by Frederick Okango, who's the Secretary General for Third Way Alliance. We are joined by Honorable Joe Mutambo, who's a former Member of Parliament. Thank you for joining us, sir. And last but not least, Robinson Abuyaka, who's a governance consultant. And that's the panel that we have this morning. So let's go straight into the dailies this morning before we get into the way it is. And we start off with the Standard, where we have the headline as Matiang'i Ruto ally clash over land saga. Now, this is a story that, of course, has been going on for a while, and it is to do with the Ruaraka land that apparently was sold and government apparently paid for public land to a private developer or a private owner. And this, of course, has come up again as Senator Cheruiyot came out to say that the deputy president is the one who intervened and saved the face of Matiang'i. But Matiang'i has hit back saying that no, that is not the case, and these are typical lies. But what we have, gentlemen, the fact is there is land that possibly the government may have lost billions of shillings, and somebody needs to be held responsible. I'll start with you, Weda, from a legal perspective, yes, as to why this should continue when we have the facts on the table as well.
I think it continues because it was never fully resolved. And fully resolved here, I think people had in mind some people visiting very early in the morning on Friday, very early in the morning on Friday, taking you in and keeping you. The Kamata. That's what the Kenyans expected over the Ruaraka land saga. So when it went and they were covered and it is asleep, it remains a wound that is inside, that is growing and resolved. So it will be used. I think my big brother Matiang'i should be prepared to face that question all the time. Anytime he does well, we say, yeah, you have done very well, but Ruaraka. Yeah. So that is the reason why these people are bringing it, because it was never resolved. And Honorable Matiang'i's enemies expected him to have been kamated early in the morning and taken. He wasn't. So those who want to have a go at him will always use that. And true, it remains unresolved. Or if it was resolved, we have not been told how it was done.
Okay. Honorable Mutambo, the question, of course, for the populace and many Kenyans is such a huge amount of money that government may have lost paying an individual for what was said to be public land. Secondly, this is a huge amount of money that is traceable. Why would we still have something like this unresolved in this day and age?
For me, I would not take it that way. I would, if I have evidence, I would go to police and record a statement. You know, the problem with us Kenyans is that we prosecute and persecute people through public embarrassers, and that is where we go wrong. If somebody somewhere feels that they have concrete information to offer this country or to support whatever allegation they are making, there are institutions. And I am saying that with a lot of respect to my lawyers, I mean to my good friends who are lawyers, they know that. We are treated to stories, and those stories will never end. They become tales, and it has become a norm that so long as people are talking it this way, supporting, and others are against it, it dies out there. If we could change the narratives and do things professionally, if someone has been mentioned, let the institutions do what they're supposed to do. And if you are an honorable person also, because let me tell you, I am the chairman of Water Resources Authority today. And if I'm mentioned in any scandal of in that sector, the first honorable thing I'll do, I'll step aside. So I wonder why people cling on their seats and they do not want to give space. If you are being suspected of something, give agencies room to clear your name. That is the only thing which will cure this nation. But as it is today, because Matiang'i has his people who will go and say, no, mtu wetu anaonewa. The other people will say, no, it is this person. And the Kenyans love it that way.
Yeah, but usually the excuse, and they'll say it's easier said than done for you to say that now as chair, yet if that accusation comes, then the other side of the law applies where they say I'm innocent until proven guilty. Because that's probably what they'll hang on.
You know, the problem we are facing is a societal problems. And what I feel in my heart, I'm convinced if somebody feels that I am not the right person in the seat I'm occupying, or I'm being there's allegations, let those allegations be cleared. It has happened everywhere in the world. And that's why you see developed world, they do not have such a problems. Because the moment something is mentioned in your docket, you don't even wait to be named. You step aside.
And of
that's
course,
the only thing we
have
need to be doing in our
Chapter
country.
6 of the Constitution, which talks about integrity, but that doesn't seem to augur well or work with Kenyans.
That integrity, that chapter, I don't know whether it is used anywhere in our country. I don't know where. I don't know.
It is
because I'm sorry, I would say this, and I wouldn't mind to say this. I want anyone or any Kenyan to tell me which institution, including maybe the anti-corruption institution, which is not corrupt, which can uphold that chapter, which institution?
None whatsoever so far. Let me hear from Robinson your take on this. And it's not just the Matiang'i issue. We have so many cases that we have heard about. We've seen a charade sometimes of, the DCI, the DPP making statements regarding certain public interest cases, but we never seem to get a conviction.
Yes, thank you. For me, I can say that Kenya as a country, we are actually very lucky that we have a good constitution. We have set up institutions that can be able to help us. But I think in the area of good governance, as a nation, we have put their structures, but we have failed to implement them. Like what your Honorable said, Chapter 6. You see, Chapter 6, we have just set up structures. But now when it came to elections, we were supposed to stop some people from vying for certain positions. Instead of stopping them, we allowed them. And there was no way, even if you are an EACC official or a DCI official, you could stop somebody from vying for a governor seat or from a president seat. So we should ask ourselves, we have Chapter 6, we have put good governance procedures in our constitution, and you see, what we lack is effectiveness and efficiency. So we have inclusiveness, we have people participation, but sometimes we limit them. We try as much as possible to be transparent and to be accountable. But when you look at our constitution, you realize that we have put very good mechanisms of ensuring that what the people want to see is being implemented. So like the Ruaraka land saga, as I see, is that already there are things that have been exposed. We don't know what exactly happened. We don't know why the huge sum of money was paid. And there are so many other cases where Kenyans have lost money. So what I can say as a governance leader, I can say like this. As a country, we should know that our democracy has matured. And as it is maturing, we need now to reach a level whereby we can be effective in implementing Chapter 6, in implementing our constitution, in implementing good governance, making sure that people are represented. We'll make sure there is equity, there is fairness, there is a rule of law.
Okay.
So, all right.
All right, we'll come to all that even as we dissect the referendum and all that. But let me hear from you, Frederick Okango. And for Kenyans, sometimes it's very disheartening to see what happens, the amount of money that sometimes is lost to the public, sometimes even in cases where there is murder involved. But because they're leaders, they continue as though nothing ever happened. And there are also some who've been arrested. They've been arraigned before court. But there seems to be so many lacunas that they can use to be scot-free.
Yes, Mike. I think in the case of Ruaraka land, there was an audit finding by the Auditor General that the government lost 1.5 billion.
Correct.
Through compulsory land acquisition. And the court had also made a determination you cannot compulsory acquire land that is public already. And that is impunity. We must call it what it is. Now, if you look at the issue that happened over the weekend between Senator Cheriot and CS Matiang'i, it was again political. Remember, this is a a CS that for some reason has been elevated, and the media call him Super CS. And for some reason also they have not been in very good terms with the DP's camp. If you remember the impeachment motion that was brought, it flopped. It flopped because there was a gang between the people who support the president and the people who support Honorable Raila Odinga. And they feared that this motion was not going to go through. So at that podium where they were, I think Senator Cheriot was mocking Matiang'i that, you know, you are a super CS, yes, but, you know, we also know that you have been adversely mentioned in certain things. So what I'm trying to say is, in this country, we have lost a lot of money. There's this office called Auditor General, and the Auditor General has given reports and findings of how this money, what we call theft, has happened. And those reports are just gathering dust. They have not been implemented because of impunity. And I agree with my co-panelist here, Honorable Tambo, that the leadership and integrity, chapter 6, is a decoration in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. People look at it, then just laugh and move on. And that's why today we see governors who were adversely mentioned in theft of public money, and they're in office. We see members of parliament who have been adversely mentioned, they're in office. So there's an urgent need to relook at chapter 6 in amending the constitution. There's an urgent need to look at the people that we put in office, if they really deserve. Because the constitution also tells us that some of these people, I mean, the selection shall be based on the principle of integrity and honesty. So if you have people in office that have got questionable characters, then what are we doing? Remember the other time when the members of parliament were approving some names that were supposed to go to some public institutions, and the next day you are arrested. Before that day, you were appearing before a parliamentary committee. I mean, really, we must now start thinking of who is actually a leader that is going to lead in any department in this country. Because we have people that have got questionable characters. I'm not saying Matiang'i, CS Matiang'i has got questionable character, but I'm saying that he has been adversely mentioned. In fact, there was a recommendation that himself and his peers then were supposed to be questioned.
And while we're still talking about that, because I want us to spread this to, it's not just about Matiang'i or that particular case. On page 9 of the Standard today, there is a story there, Balala blamed for death of rhinos at Savo. So it's not really just about loss of money, but when you talk about leadership and integrity, when you talk about leadership as you know, a role given to those leaders by the populace to take care of them. This particular case, many of us will remember, where we lost quite a number of rhinos. I believe it was about 10 of them, and the buck has to stop somewhere. Now, according to this particular story, members of parliament are blaming Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala for the death of 11 rhinos during the relocation of these rhinos August last year. Now, many of us will remember that he came out and said that he's only answerable to the president. But of course, we beg to differ by virtue of the fact he's answerable to Kenya. Weda, when we talk about this leadership and integrity chapter, these are issues and questions that are left. Now, we have 11 rhinos that died, which of course we know the impact of that, but nobody paid for them. Nobody paid the price for that. Nobody paid for those decisions. When we read this story, apparently there was money that was involved in this particular decision process. But your thoughts on how we should implement that chapter?
I think that chapter, if it was followed, it would work very well. But the problem is both sides. Who will implement it? You have Balala there dancing over the graves of the rhino, saying, who can sack me? I'm only responsible. It therefore means that if you are to implement it strictly, it can be used as a weapon. Actually, it can be used as a weapon. If you are on this side, if you are on the wrong side, you are arrested early in the morning on Friday. If you are on the right side, you are not arrested. That's why you find some people arrested, some people, Matiang'i is cleared or is left. Some people are sacked. That is why Balala dances and says, what can you do? So we have to address, if people are going to step aside, this is not going to be used as a weapon of this victimization. And if you want somebody out of office, you arrest them, then you tell them leadership and integrity requires you to be out. You see that? And thereby putting us in a situation where we can settle political scores. The Constitution itself has no problem. It is very clear the way it is. But we had fallen short of glory of everything. So that who is to implement? Is it Weda? Weda has his own skeletons. Is it my colleagues here, Mr. Mutambo, say, skeletons? In fact, if you point a finger at anybody, they'll quickly tell you, Mr. Mutambo, we have this record, you have not paid this tax. Then the KRA comes. You have not done this, then the DCIO calls you. So the biggest elephant in the room is who will implement it without necessarily victimizing others. If we had such people, then it would be very easy. But for now, nobody is clean to implement it. Nobody.
So then are you suggesting whether that let's remain with status quo since
what
all
I'm
of us have
suggesting is that
skeletons?
we are progressing slowly. Somehow a few people have been arrested. That's very good. Eventually all of us will reach where we can say enough is enough. You remember my usual slogan? Pain is the seed for change. Let us reach where we say never again. For now, we have not reached. For now, our rhinos die and the minister dances and says, "Utadu," and then we cheer Balala and say, "Hallelujah." The Ruaraka land is mentioned, and we say, no. Honorable Matiang'i is a super CS and is doing a good job. We can't now risk having him out. But then there are others, if you joke around with your pungos or something, we will take you to the DCI very early in the morning. So until we are able to treat people equally before the law, let us keep on praying.
Honorable Mutambo, how do we deal with this? And again, allow me to bring into focus the Daily Nation. The headline is Dam Scandal Details That Shocked Uhuru. And maybe even many Kenyans were left shocked by virtue of the fact that after 4 billion shillings lost or paid off to some Italian firm, which was again already bankrupt, details are coming out that there was no feasibility study that was done for the dam. Again, the buck has to stop somewhere. And maybe some might argue and say that the CS the CS Rotich was arrested, was arraigned in court, and is off his job. But the bottom line is, will anybody be found culpable for this? It remains a mystery.
Before I go to dams, let me say this. We will never solve this problem because actually the problem, if you look deep into the Constitution, you will find the problem is actually inside the Constitution because the Constitution makes the law and water it down. What do I mean? Because the moment you say this person is innocent until proven guilty, it doesn't matter what kind of allegation you level against them. They are still innocent until, and that will be their tool. And that is the premises they use anywhere they go. And that is why, if today some allegations are there, Mutambo is corrupt in this manner, you cannot stop me from vying. Because I will quote the same Constitution, that I am innocent until proven guilty. Prove me guilty so that you can say, I cannot fight. So the problem is inside the same Constitution. And until, and I said this before, until we offer all this Constitution. And if someone, yes, it is innocent until proven guilty, there must be some rider in that clause. But if you are mentioned on this, even though you are innocent until proven guilty, you cannot do A, B, C, D, or there are don'ts and do's. But because there is ubiquity there, that room is being used by each and every person, elephant and mouse, to make use of freedom which that Constitution provides. So there is no way this one can go away. If you are expecting this to go away,
it's not about to go anywhere.
You are not my guest. Because it is not going to go away. And chapter 6 it cannot work. That is where this Constitution was erred. And I remember when I was elected as a member of Parliament, 3 months when I was in Parliament, I said no, this Constitution is not right for Kenyans. And I brought some amendments. Where it died is a story for another day. Okay? And those are the issues actually I addressed on my bill. If we went through that, we could have cured. But you cannot tell me the same Constitution which want me to be accountable is also protecting me, and then at the end of the day, you expect Kenyans to get something good out of it? And my
It's not gonna
brother,
happen.
I am sorry.
Okay.
That one will not happen. And lawyers are here, and I said we are privileged to have a very seasoned
Senior
lawyer
counsel.
seated next to us. He'll tell you. If you arrest me, I'll actually hire him. And he will just go with that clause. And all the judges, they are also lawyers. They'll say, no, this is what the law says. And the court is just it's a court of law and facts. And those are facts.
And-
so you
and-
cannot
and maybe
do
that's a
anything to me.
discussion we need
So
to have
the
as
question,
Kenya.
The question utadu comes from that constitution.
The same constitution.
The same constitution. So there is no remedy to this problem. And I don't expect something to happen. No, unless we sit back and forget about the issue of punguza gunia or punguza mdebe or punguza mzigo. We need to reason as a country. What is hailing our problem? I mean our country. The issue is, today, because I want to be famous, I wake up with my own thing and I start making noise, happening left, right, center. I want to punguza mzigo. I want to do this. I have not consulted no one. And people will say, okay, let's follow this. People will come out, governors, and I'm sure we are going to discuss that. Governors will sit down and say, we are elected. We also want to do this. Okay? My good friend here will say, we must do this. And it's traversing the entire country. At the end of the day, what do you get? Zero.
Zero. All right, let me hear from Robinson on that. And Robinson.
Thank you for those who are joining us. My name is Robinson Abuyeka. I'm a governance expert or consultant. Now, what I want to say is that I have had the opportunity of meeting so many tourists coming to Kenya. And I can tell you for sure, I'm really shocked that we lost 11 rhinos. What should be done? Most of the tourists coming to Kenya, they always tell us, oh, you people are lucky, you have Mara, you have the animals. And that's what they come. They come to see the lions, the rhinos. And now it's unfortunate a cabinet minister, after we have lost 11 rhinos, just talks like that and dismisses such a serious allegations. So what we need to do, we need actually to protect our natural heritage, our natural resources. We have opportunities here in Kenya. So many people from Europe, from America, from all over the world. I met somebody from Brazil. He was leaving Kenya, going to Cairo. I asked him, now you have left Kenya, you are going to Cairo. Do you think you will find something nice in Cairo? They told me Kenya is better. You have nice animals. And many other people. So what I want to say, Kenyans, we need to protect our animals. We need to put there people of integrity who can take care of institutions that are dealing with our animals and our tourist attraction centers. Another thing I want to say is that for our constitution, like my panelists have said, my co-panelists have said, we have a challenge in our constitution. Like some people, it's like that story of the pig. That there are others who are senior than others. Like in Kenya, there are people, even if you put allegations, nothing will be done. But maybe if you say Robinson has done this and this, you will see something has done. So we need to be fair. We need to apply the law.
Some might argue that that has changed by virtue of the fact that we've had CSs arrested, we've had governors arrested, because the law has to apply equally. And by that, what I mean is that they have been arrested, but within the same constitution, it allows for them to be set free or given bond until a time where they can be charged.
All right. So I agree with you that the law allows them to be set free. So what we need to ask ourselves as Kenyans is, what do we do with somebody who is a suspect, and somebody who is a suspect in a very serious a very serious crime like murder, like theft of billions of money. So we need to ask ourselves, we need actually to have a national dialogue. We need to have a national dialogue on our systems of governance. We need to have a national dialogue on what we want to do in order to implement the law, in order to implement our constitution, in order to make sure that these counties that we have, the 47 counties that we are now having, and now there's a referendum cry. Some people are crying for BBI, referendum, others want punguza mzigo. So we need to ask ourselves as questions as Kenyans. We are now a mature democracy, or we are still growing?
Okay.
So
All right, we'll come back to you on that because we'll discuss the constitution and referendum in just a bit. But still on the newspaper review on page 3 of the Daily Nation, we have a story there that draws attention again to where we are as a country. Master's graduate who is not ashamed of a border trade. And of course, as a country, we know that for a long time, as long as you are educated, you are not expected to do certain jobs. However, I think it's about time as Kenyans we have a paradigm shift in that there should be pride in somebody earning an honest living. There should be pride in somebody earning an honest living, regardless of the qualifications that you may have. Here's a young man. He's got a master's degree, probably grew up in the era where you are told, so many vijana, when you finish, you will get a good job. According to him, this may not be a good job. Let me start with you, Okango, as a young person, particularly in this panel, that we need to get to a point where, as a country, we begin to revolutionize and accept the fact that even if you don't have a white-collar job, earning an honest living is a decent way of living.
I agree. Earning an honest living is a decent way of living. But look, what has denied the millions of young Kenyans opportunity in this country is what we are talking about, is theft of public money. That is what has denied the millions out there opportunities. Because when you steal money meant for construction of industries, you are denying the young people opportunity. But this is just another case. The other time, the media told Kenyans about a young man who is a first-class honors and was sleeping in Uhuru Park. You remember that story?
Yes.
Without a job until somebody went and picked him. But listen, we have got so many young Kenyans who are educated. They don't have the job that they would desire to have, but they've decided they're going to get a decent living or a decent job in doing odd jobs, like boda, which I would call not very good for somebody who has gone up to the university. The reason why they're doing this is because they don't have opportunity to get the best of what they have learned. This country has got immense skills from people that can serve in whatever capacity, in the government, in the public sector, in the private sector, and so on. But we are not seeing that happening because we have allowed impunity to take reign. We're talking about now leadership and integrity. I don't understand how at some point a state officer who has got a job to do and has been given power by the people goes into office, steal public money that is meant to create youth employment, and comes out and brags that he's doing some good work while the youth are suffering. It is not acceptable. What we must do to ensure that our youth are employed, we must industrialize this country and take these services closer to where they are so that we don't see that, because they come to the city, the young guys, to look for a job. They don't get it. They turn into criminals. They are killed by the police. And what happens is now it is a war between the young people, the government, and the police. You understand? So what we need to do, we need to start thinking, do we really need to get the white-collar job that the young people are looking for? My answer is no, but we need to create opportunity for them where they are, in the villages, in the wards, and in this constitutional amendment that people are talking about, then we have to see how are these constitutional amendments going to enable an environment that industrialization can happen right at the ward level. And that is what we're talking about as a party.
Okay. Honorable Tambo, your thoughts on this? The youth are definitely a critical mass in this country. And as long as they are unemployed, then that becomes a problem. However, there are those who might argue and say the education system has a role to play because rather than become job creators, we are churning out people who are expecting jobs, yet the number of students that are coming out of universities and learning institutions compared to the job creation do not match.
You know, when we talk about job creation, what are we talking about here? To me, I think innovation and creativity is what can create jobs. You know, we cannot sit down and say we are going to wait for the positions which are there to be given by the government. Because if you talk of, let's say, cabinet secretaries, we know the Constitution talks about 22. How many graduates do we have there who are graduating every day, every year, with the masters and with degrees? And do we expect all of them to get to be ministers? Do we expect all of them to be teachers? Do we expect all of them to be police officers? Do we expect all of them to be divined, duty to get the divined duties in the government structure? No, the answer is no. So what are we doing? What are we doing in terms of creativity and innovation to create those spaces? Because if we are not talking about that, then we are still wasting another precious time discussing this issue of government not offering job to people. And the jobs which are there are actually described. Okay? If it is teachers, we know how many teachers we can hire per year. If it is police officers, we know how many, and they cannot match the number of graduates we are getting. So what we need to do is to think outside the box so that we create these positions for these young people. I can tell you, if we become entrepreneurs in this country, we can hire these young gentlemen and ladies as CEOs of that. Imagine there was no Safaricom. Where would those people be? So Safaricom came in. That is an innovation, a way of telecommunication. How many people have been employed? Why can't we think of something else? Do we even think of farming? Do we think of even doing other things? So that is actually where I would want to put my energy in innovation and coming up with the new ideas, but not to sit down and start crying to government to offer me a collar job. I read a book called Why A Students Work for C Students. It is because those C students, those who are very loud, and I want you to go back to history and also to history of our country. There was a very interesting article yesterday in our dailies talking about those who made the billionaires, actually their kins who are suffering. Look at those people. Look at their background. Look at their education level. Look at Karune. Look at the other people. Those who have made money, did they make money because they went to school? The answer is no. The answer is no. So once you say that I can only make money because I went and I acquired a degree or a diploma or a master's somewhere, then this country will not grow. Let us, even those shushus who are out there, mama bogas who are out there, they are employing even graduates. I can tell you the first, let me give you an example. My first job, my first business. I did not have a degree when I was doing business, but I hired a master's person who had a master's, okay, to work for me, all right? And if we think that way, we can create jobs in this country. But the moment we sit down and say we are going to rely on the government, then we are not going to do it. Kudos for this gentleman who is riding a motorbike. I want to tell you, next time that gentleman who is riding a motorbike, you will see him owning a fleet of motorbikes, of buses.
Whether your thoughts on this, and I mean, we cannot let the government off the hook by virtue of the fact that they are the ones to create an enabling environment. Yes. We have very many creative young people out there, but the environment sometimes is stifling by particularly maybe bureaucracy when it comes to opening a business. There are so many requirements that are required, and these are government initiatives.
Yes, let me face the audience and tell them, look, when we are talking economics and we are talking about economy, we are talking about value. We are not talking about certificates. So when you come into the economy, you must address what value are you bringing into the marketplace. Is the marketplace looking for that value you are bringing? If you bring a master's degree, it is a master's degree in what? What solutions are you bringing? That is what you will be hired for. You will not be hired for the PhD for the what? You will be hired. If somebody is looking for a nurse, that is what the market wants. So even if you came with a degree in this, that would be a problem. You look at it, the government has the responsibility to create an environment where the economy grows, there is fairness, there are order, so that when you come in, you find your place. That part the government has not done. Because you may look at the Aror Dam and you say, now in this Aror Dam, I want to be singing to the staff as they work there. Then eventually they have eaten everything. So that is gone. You want to start a business, you are running your small kiosk somewhere, my brother here comes and they take it away at night. Another day, it is demolished. Meanwhile, you had gotten all the approvals to think you are setting up your business. Then one day you are told this is riparian land. And whoever built that one, you don't. So the government cannot escape.
And I want us to take a break. Honorable Mtambo, I just a closing remark.
I disagree a little bit. I want to believe government has given structures out there, and government has enabled so many structures. Name any sector, and I'll tell you what government has done. ICT, because city is coming up, that is what the government is doing, and the people are free to go and market themselves there. I want to agree with him on only one point. It is the value you're bringing into the market.
Correct.
The issue of you doing a business and it's demolished tomorrow, if you do something against the law, if it is the riparian land, you need to understand that the law is very clear, and you are not supposed to build within the riparian land. That is my
Please let me just
all right. I want us to take a break.
Then it is your problem because you have done it in the wrong way.
I'm told that we are out of time. I want us to take a break. We'll come back and maybe begin from there. But I want us to finish with page 14 of the Daily Nation, because I think it describes what you're talking about here, values.
Yes.
And what generation are we bringing up? Page 14 gives us a good cartoon expression of where we are today. And you have parents there looking at themselves in terms of righteousness, and you have children who are just growing up on their own. And of course, this would also bring to light a video that went viral not too long ago of a child who was speaking obscenities, and that, of course, that again gives us where it begins. Charity begins at home. Parents, what are we bringing up our children to be? What are we bringing up as that? Because then that is what is going to reflect on the generation that is coming. There you go, page 14 gives us a description of that as we take a break from the newspaper review. But do stay with us. When we come back, it's time for us to look at what ails this country. What really is our problem as a country? Is a referendum going to be the silver bullet that will solve our problem? And even when we talk about that, we have so many proposals now coming up. One wonders which proposal really suits Wanjiko the best.